Welcome to AI in Education, Custom Boss GPTs. We are part of a bigger group, which originally was an offshoot of the Pod Network in North America. And last year, 2024, as participants were looking for interest groups and affinity groups, Custom Boss GPTs was starting to be on the scene. And we've been gathering, this is our nice monthly meeting. If you are very new to this space, I think best way I've heard of describing a custom GPT is basically packaging a prompt. If you've ever had a prompt that worked very well for you and you wanted to share it with students or colleagues, how do you do that? You could copy and paste the whole thing, but custom GPT is packaging up. Of course, it can be so much more, and you'll see that today. But at the very essence, it's packaging, well, ChatGPT or another large language model with very specific instructions, prompt. And I was thinking of like a gift package as we come from the holidays. At the core, you have the prompt instructions. Other things you can add in. Many times knowledge and a reference base is absolutely crucial, and we'll see that in the work of Jerilee and Jaime. And maybe something to come is more interactive ways of more interactive modalities for a custom bot GPT. But at its essence is packaging a prompt to be shared with others. And what platforms could you use to do this? OpenAI has gotten a lot of attention, but as I was thinking back, I realized I even forgot because I thought, oh, that's how I first heard about custom bot GPTs, but I had seen one on Poe before. So it was already going on in Poe. In this survey that we did in our own October meeting, OpenAI was the most popular back then, but we have many other platforms and some that in the other category as well. And would anyone like to do a quick share of any of these categories with us? A favorite 2024 moment or a hope for 2025? Yes, Renee Parker.
Hello. I added on the 2024 discoveries, I added my rubric maker bot. It has saved me so much time. I don't know about you guys, but I just hate writing rubrics so much. So this bot, you just put in the assignment prompt and you can add learning outcomes if you want, but it automatically generates a rubric. Free to use.
That's so powerful because the use case of using bots for assignments brings up, yes, for assessment and assignments, how is the bot going to evaluate it? And having a rubric maker, that sounds amazing. Thank you. I see other mentions: Perplexity, Notebook LM. Yep, that took the world by storm. Did you know you can now jump into a Notebook LM conversation, which makes me wonder if you can share it. It's almost like a custom bot ChatGPT. You can ask the people questions. Hi, Christine Lucer. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to see you. I was going to build on Renee's and say I was really excited that I could just give ChatGPT my syllabus and say, find these shared learning outcomes in it. So it could identify particular topics that I was focusing on that I probably knew I was teaching, but was way more intentional about it once it pointed out where those links existed.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And I think a question we've had come up through the meetings is like, well, why build a bot? And it's like, I don't have one answer for you because there's so many, right? It depends on how you use it. And once you hear these ideas, it could like spark light bulbs. Great. And any predictions? I won't hold you to them, but who knows? Hopefully we'll keep meeting through the year and we can look back on these in December. That'll be a fun activity. I know agents, everybody's talking about agents, how that would play out in custom bots GPTs is another question. Multimodality, right? Being able to interact with GPTs through voice, through video. Hey, Jen, is one that I've experimented with to generate video avatars. So I could see that coming, maybe coming to learning platforms. Anyone else?
I would like to,
Shalini, yes.
agents are now so 2021. I think I'm actually creating multi-agent AI for our courses and our colleges. So we're actually building one right now for the front desk, and where you can you can actually have multi-agents. So actually you can get rid of a lot of work that has to be done, and the machines can do it. So multi-agent is becoming very, very big in industry, I think. I'm in San Francisco, and you have billboards here saying, stop hiring humans, hire AI agents.
Yeah.
So we are actually now teaching our students how to build these multi-agent AIs instead of not getting jobs.
Yes. Wish list, hopes, I was thinking more on the positive side, but predictions, definitely there's a lot of fears, there's a lot of concerns. But Shalini, maybe you can present for us in the future. I think this is a space that everybody wants to hear more about. Great. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt, but the thing is, don't think of it as a negative thing. My question to everyone is, were we humans born to work? And if not, maybe this will let us be free people. So let's think of it as a positive rather than a negative. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I'm going to turn it over in a moment to our first presenter, Iain. And I connected with Iain Coggins through initiatives at CUNY, City University of New York. I'm so happy he's the first presenter we have from CUNY here in New York. And we connected through Computing Integrated Teacher Education, which is an initiative to prepare teachers in the K-12 public school system in New York to integrate more technology into their classrooms, which has been an ongoing challenge, but certainly in the last 2 years, a subset of that is AI integration. And he is an adjunct assistant professor at Lehman College CUNY. He combines his experiences as a K-12 teacher in urban classrooms and literacy education consultant to explore dialogical potential of AI and custom GPTs. And he's going to present for us his work on a custom GPT to help students navigate complex text.
Well, thank you very much, Casandra. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I've been excited about this. So yeah, actually, I'm going to share, I'm going to go very quickly so we can ask questions at the end, but I'm going to share actually 3 customizations that I've put together. And I call these dialogical tools. That's kind of my focus is how can we engage in a dialogical exchange with a machine in such a way to where we actually enhance our own thinking. And key to that is this term co-intelligence, which is coined by Ethan Mollick, who's a pretty well-known, wide-ranging researcher on AI. And this is his most recent book you're seeing here. There's a quote from him I'll just share, which I think encapsulates what I'm getting at with my presentation today, which is he writes, biases come from our being stuck in our own minds. Now we have another strange artificial co-intelligence that we can turn to for help. AI can assist us as a thinking companion to improve our own decision-making, helping us reflect on our own choices rather than simply relying on the AI to make choices for us. And we are in a world where human decision-making skills can be easily augmented in a new way. All of that is to say that it's a little disconcerting, to put it mildly, to find yourself collaborating with a machine through your thought process. But I think there's some powerful opportunities for teaching and learning with students. So in this demo, I'm going to talk about making AI tools along these lines, dialogical lines, accessible for middle and high school teachers. So I'm a teacher educator at Lehman College. I'm a consultant in schools throughout New York City. I'm very interested in how K-12 teachers can use tools along these lines. I've done a lot of this experiments and whatnot with college level students, but I really wanted to take these tools and develop them for a K-12 classroom. That being said, it's not a lot's happening in K-12 education, really, that I've seen so far. There's a lot of hesitancy, a lot of anxiety around it, just general ignorance about what AI potential, what the potential of AI is. And that's not to be critical. This is an absolutely alien, new, unexplored thing that has just emerged in our environment in the last 2 years. And I think myself, along with everybody I know, is struggling to like figure out what can you do with this resource that we call AI. So today I'll just demo really quickly some thinking together, co-intelligence with novel study in the middle school level. And so, and my goal here is to share, I got three bots I want to share, 2 by ChatGPT, 1 by Claude. My goal here is to present things that any K-12 teacher could do right now without having to spend any money. Because accessibility is a critical piece here. So I'm working with this book here just as a demo example, The Giver by Lois Lowry. If you've spent any amount of time in English language arts in public schools in the United States over the last 30 years, you know this book. It's very, very widely taught. It's a very accessible, flexible book for teaching in a variety of ways. So I'm just using it as a prop, more or less, to show how these work. So the first GBT I want to share with you really quickly, as I want to spend more time on the other 2, is the one I call Legitur. Legitur is a reading discussion partner. Let me go ahead and stop sharing and reshare because I want to go right to it. And here we are. And so here we are on my ChatGPT wall. And as you see, I have a ton of bots over here, and I'm looking for Legitur right here. So what Legitur does, here it is Legitur has a reading discussion with you. And I designed it so that it doesn't help you understand your reading. It doesn't summarize your reading. It doesn't help you navigate the content that you're reading in any explicit way. What it does is it responds to you Socratically. So if I click the discussion starter here and say I want to discuss a reading, it gives me the friendly greeting that we're all familiar with, those of us who use ChatGPT. And I'm just going to tell it what I'm doing. I'm reading Lois Lowry's. I'm probably even giving it more information I need to. And I'm spelling things wrong and I'm doing it roughly, and that won't matter because AI will work itself out here. And it says, that's a fascinating choice. What do you think about the community and the giver so far? Does it seem like a good place to live, or does something about it feel unsettling to you? Why? What's neat about this is I haven't put any data into this particular GPT that I've named Legitur. I haven't put anything into it to prepare it for this. It doesn't know about the giver because I've given it information about that. This is just from its training data. It's immediately familiarized with the book and whatnot. So if I just jump right in here and say, I'm puzzled as to why the giver has no power, even though he has all of the knowledge and wisdom in the community. So I'm just jumping right in here, assuming that ChatGPT and Legitur knows what I'm talking about. I'm not giving it any more context. I'm just throwing out a statement. It responds, that's a really interesting observation. Why do you think the community would design it that way, giving the giver so much knowledge but keeping him from having power? Do you think the people in charge might have a reason for keeping things this way? All right, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to go to the next chat up. But what I wanted to just end with here is just to show you that it's responding to me with questions that force me to go back to the text. And I can continue this dialogue ad nauseum, and I can take it into very deep levels. I can keep it more content level, surface level. I can drive it as a student. I can drive this conversation in any direction I want. And from a teaching perspective, I would be guiding students to ask certain types of questions, to craft questions in a certain way to get the richest interaction possible. But regardless of what I say or ask about this book to this bot, it is going to continually ask me questions that force me to reflect on my own reading myself, to go back to the text on myself. It also has a feature, which I'm not going to demo right now, where it will ask me, the student, user, for textual evidence from the book in order to support my arguments. So the conversation with Legitur can get quite complex as you go through it. I envision this as a really helpful tool for students in a classroom, as a supplement to what is happening in the regular classroom with discussions and readings and writing activities, a resource that students, an active live resource that students can go to deepen their understanding of their reading. And this discussion can be carried out collaboratively with several students talking to the bot, or by one student, on an individual basis, or both. So there's a lot of flexibility.
Ian, sorry,
Yeah.
because I know you said you're going to move on to another one. We'll do
Yeah.
questions later, but somebody did ask, are you willing to show us instructions of how this magic happens?
I can, but even better than that, this is if you do not have to be a paid subscriber on ChatGPT. With a free account, you can access this bot right now because I've put it in the store, so it is free to use. And I will happily put the links for these bots in the chat before we leave today.
No, but I mean the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah,
the
behind the
instructions.
scenes. Well, that's a whole topic in itself, and I'll happily dive into that when we get to Q&A. But the short answer to your question is that you can set up a bot like this in about 10 to 15 minutes. It's insanely easy to do. That's the beauty of it. And yeah, I did not spend an incredible amount of time putting this together. I devised this one off of an other version I used for my college level courses, which worked really, really well with my classes. So yeah, you use simple plain language, and you essentially tell ChatGPT what you want your bot to do, and you name it, and it's very straightforward. You don't need to know how to code. So let me go over here to the sidebar really quick and click on the more sophisticated one I've created here, which is the one I call Cromarty. So let me get it to kick in. Okay, so Cromarty goes a little bit deeper. So the one we just looked at is a discussion partner, and that's as simple as it is. But let's say I have as a teacher, I want my students to put together a literacy project around this book called The Giver, and this Cromarty is a guide for setting up a literacy project, and it will work through 4 different phases of putting together a project. But again, it does not suggest projects for you necessarily. It doesn't do things for you. It puts you in the driver's seat of designing your own literacy project with clear parameters and guidelines. So if I go in here, I have 2 options here. I can give it a prompt that I already have, or I can say I need to create an essential question. That's the one I'm going to do here for the demo. And I simply say, start that conversation off saying, I need to create an essential question for a literacy project. It greets me in its friendly way, and it right away gives me several options here. It has some questions to get me thinking, like what themes or ideas feel the most meaningful. Well, it doesn't know what I'm reading yet, okay? So I need to tell it that. I am reading The Giver by Lowry. I'm in 8th grade, working in a group of 3. We want to create a project that we can present to our class. I'll just keep it super simple, hit that. And Cromarty comes back and starts giving me some feedback here. Again, Cromarty knows all about the book. It asks me, it gives me some suggested ideas, a few ideas to help spark discussion. What does the giver teach us about the balance between freedom and control? Why might emotions and individuality be considered dangerous in some societies? So it's giving me some thoughtful ideas for thought that are relevant to that particular text. And if I go in here and say, I would like to craft a question, I'll say an essential question about the power, okay, the relationship between power and knowledge in the giver as seen in the role of the giver himself. All right, that's my prompt. That's my suggestion of just kind of where I want to go. And Cromarty responds, great focus. The relationship between power and knowledge is a central theme in the giver. Let's shape your essential question around that idea. Here are some possibilities to get you thinking, and it gives me more food for thought. Ask me what I think. Would you like to adapt one of these or combine them into something unique? What angle do you think your group would find most interesting to explore? So I'll stop here and just show that what we have here is the beginning of a conversation back and forth with the bot, which can be back and forth between several students working with it. And it's helping us figure out and clarify what we want to write about and think about. Let me just wrap this up by showing one other feature of this and say, can you jump to the simulation phase of this project and provide and give us a question that will help us pre-plan our project. This is not really what I would typically ask students to do, but this is for demonstration purposes. And it's going to jump in and say, let's think about how your group might bring your ideas to life. Here's a simulation question to guide your pre-planning. Quote, if you were to show how the giver's knowledge gives him power and the impact of that on Jonas and the community, what tools or methods could you use to make that clear to your classmates? Would a visual, a performance, or an interactive activity work best? Consider, and it gives me some more ideas. So as you see, it's guiding me and guiding us, if it's a group, through a fully rounded thinking process and putting together a project. I find it works pretty well that way. What I want to do next, though, is do this same essential customization task using Claude. And I think you will see a little bit of a difference in how these different LLMs operate. So let me stop sharing and I will reshare there. Claude is interesting. I've only recently started a Claude subscription. I've started to play around with it. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. And I think for language-based work, especially like ELA, Claude may be superior to ChatGPT in some respects. I don't want to like say that in a determinative way, but I've been very, very impressed with the interactivity with it. So Claude customizations work a bit differently. You're seeing my Claude wall right here. You cannot customize a GPT in Claude in quite the same way as you do with ChatGPT. With Claude's parallel to that is what they call projects, Claude projects. So if you can set projects up and they're stored there, and you can store PDFs in them, and you can give them knowledge bases, and you can come back and do the projects multiple times. But each one of those sessions you do with a given product is a brand new session. So it won't remember everything. I think there's a bit more flexibility with ChatGPT, customized GPTs to some degree, but it's no less sophisticated. So you'll see here, I've got some projects already in here. And if I go to this one here called the Giver project, I'm going to just say start Giver project after I select that. I'm going to send it in. And Claude is going to say, welcome to the Giver project, because I gave it instructions on this. And so it knows what I'm talking about when I'm saying I want to do that. And it's telling me, and I want you to notice the verbiage and the wording and the language style of Anthropic Claude as opposed to ChatGPT. It's a little bit different. So Claude says, welcome to the Giver project to begin phase 1. There's going to be 4 phases, just as there were with Cromarty. What aspect of Jonas's community intrigues or troubles you most? Remember, this is your exploration. There are no wrong starting points. Share what generally captures your attention or concern as you read. So it's very guiding, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm just going to jump in here and say, I'm concerned. I'm curious. No, I'm puzzled as to why the giver has no power in the community, even though he is the only one with any knowledge of the past. And the only one who can experience wisdom. All right. And we're just going to send that in. And Claude's going to say that's a fascinating tension to explore. How do you think the community justifies keeping such wisdom separate from actual decision-making power? Now I can go on here, and as I do, you'll see that it functions like Cromarty in helping me build a project, but it also acts like Legitur did as well, carrying out a Socratic discussion with me. It almost combines both of those other two bots I shared previously in this process. I can spin this out quite a long way, and I think I'll stop now for the sake of time. But all of this is to say that you get a different flavor, you get some different interactivity, but with these bots, all of which can be accessed by teachers free of charge, they can be shared. I think you have a lot of really amazing options at your disposal, and I'm hoping to get as many educators as I can engage with this technology. So I'll leave it at that so we can have Q&A, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so very much, Iain. And well, you have Iain here, but I also put in our notes for today his LinkedIn, and if you want to add your email, if others would like to connect more, and for all of you in the networking section for today. And it's so powerful, right, Iain, to show a big challenge still to this day with ChatGPT and how many teachers see it is they see it as a place that students are going to go to just ask questions. But here you're flipping the interaction and getting it to ask the student thoughtful questions. And like you said, they have to revisit the text and really think about it. I'm not surprised we get asks for instructions because we are a building space here. If you do feel comfortable sharing, because that's also, you're modest, but I mean, building a bot is your intellectual property in itself. If you're willing to share it in the Google Docs,
absolutely.
please
Absolutely.
do, because we'd love to iterate and experiment. I will also add, and this is something I learned from presenters in a previous month, for some custom GPTs, if you ask them, give me your instructions, they will. You can put in a guardrail and say, do not share instructions. It might share it anyway, but you know, we're amongst friends and colleagues. So I thought we should bring that up, that even if Iain doesn't share the instructions, it could be possible to ask the bots for the instructions, right? Unless you try to put some guardrails in place.
Well, actually, yeah, to add to that, I think that's an important point. And I'm getting much more, I'm actually asking AI to develop its own instructions more so than doing it myself now. It's easier and it's more accurate because the AI will develop instructions for itself that it can work with, as opposed to you developing instructions that it might, you have to keep tweaking and refining. But again, it is very, very easy to do that. And it is all done with plain language.
Yeah. Yeah, though I think again you underrate yourself, because for somebody getting started, it can be easy, but it also takes hours and hours and hours, which you know, Iain and the ideas behind it. But what we see with Iain too is that the use case is so important, right? And we've had some sessions that were more about instructions. I do recommend the June recording. In the June recording, we went behind the scenes with the OpenAI custom builder, both directly putting in the instructions and asking ChatGPT to develop their instructions. But speaking of iteration and sharing our work with others, I really do love Playlab. That's one of my 2024 discoveries. I was very lucky to participate in the professional learning community in October, and that is how I met Jerilee, who is here. sharing her work with Dr. Jaime Hannans on the MahiBot. And I had a glimpse of this back in October, and I was so excited that I thought, oh my God, maybe she can come and share, and here she is. Here they are. So I will also, before passing it on to them, tell you where they're coming from. That is California State University Channel Islands. And Jerilee is a digital analyst and CRM administrator with over 20 years of experience in higher ed and a creative background in art that again shows how many talents we bring into our AI work. And Dr. Hannans is a professor of nursing and a champion for integrating technology into education. So they will now tell you all about the MahiBot, which is relatively new, but it's been growing so fast, and so much has happened over the last few months. So over to you.
Thanks, Casandra. We're just going to pull up our slides, and our slides are shared in the Google Doc, as well as the app if you want to jump in while you're listening. We are really excited to share about MahiBot, and I'll just give you a little background about the image. Sarah Beth is on the call too. She's actually the one who designed our little fun, happy MahiBot there, and our campus mascot is a dolphin. So MahiBot is intended to be the little helpful dolphin fish to align to our mascot. So Jerilee, of course, is our digital analyst and CRM administrator, and she does all the magic behind the scenes. I am currently the Associate Dean of Extended University, and my background is in nursing, so I'm also a professor of nursing, and we've both been at CI for quite some time. I'll tell you a little bit about our campus, just to give you context. We are one of the smallest of the 23 CSU campuses. We're in Central California, kind of halfway between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. We are not on an island, even though we are CSU Channel Islands. We always get that question. But we do have a research station on one of the Channel Islands, which is a great opportunity for students to do some work out there, and faculty. We are a relatively smaller campus, and I say that because that means we don't have a ton of staff in the background that can be just building AI on their own. Luckily, Jerilee is really talented and excited about AI in general. And so when we started to explore this in our area, Extended University, which is a self-support tuition model, a little bit different from the main campus, but we have a number of graduate programs, certificate programs, both credit and non-credit, and we sort of serve the adult learner who may be returning to campus for an undergrad online program, or maybe at our offsite extension campus at Goleta, or maybe returning for one of our graduate programs that are in person in the evenings or hybrid. So we also kind of in our area is our Osher lifelong learning students. So some of our bot had to address questions from different perspectives, from undergraduate, graduate, maybe our retirement community or community members that are engaging in our OLLI classes through Osher lifelong learning, and our international students. So we had kind of a broad population that might be using MahiBot and might be asking questions. We have approximately 1,000 students in our area generally, but our enrollment across campus is just under 5,000 right now. So that gives you kind of context to who we're serving. We got really excited about the options and opportunities to explore, like everyone, right? The last 2 years has been this just evolution and explosion of how many apps and bots and AI tools can you explore, how fast can you keep up, and which ones are going to be most useful for you. One of the intense that we really had in thinking about this project was how can we answer students on a 24/7 basis? We have online students, we have students that are after hours, we have international students. How do we make sure that after the working day, they can still get questions answered? And how do we use that to really efficiently think about workflow and minimize the emails and the phone calls that are coming through, where people really want that instantaneous response when they can get it, right? I will definitely do a text or a chat when I can, when you think of whatever question you need to ask for any kind of service. So it also gave us an opportunity to really dig into AI and see what we could do and try different tools and explore the applications in higher education. So that's where we started. Part of the development process, of course, is figuring out what tool is going to work best, which tool is accessible, affordable, how do we protect student privacy concerns and make sure that we're not getting into a space that's, students are having to log in or share their information mandatorily, or if we are doing that, that their information is protected. And then in that process, the back end, which Jerilee is going to do a demo for, is really what we learned from the building and really figuring out once we chose the Playlab tool as an option, then how do we really build that? Because one of the things we wanted was something that could be on the website, clickable, accessible, easy to just ask her questions to. And I'll kind of hand it off to Jerilee for the rest of the development process, because that's where her expertise has been so valuable.
So I'm Jerilee Petralba. Part of the development process was I used ChatGPT to help me with my prompts. So my prompt would be, I would put it in ChatGPT and ask, how would I write this if this was a Playlab prompt? Because I found that a lot of the prompts I was writing was really lengthy. Then it was a whole paragraph of me trying to explain that this is how you find this information. And then I would just input it into ChatGPT and have it condense it so it's more concise. And we also had to, part of this is I do not know all this information. So all of this is public information on our website. There are different staff members, colleagues who are involved and are the subject matter experts. So I had to make sure that we had collaborative meetings, testings. Everyone had to ask the questions, and then they had to review to make sure the answers were correct. So there's a lot of collaborations built before. There's also long-term, we had to plan, how are we, now that we have this bot, how are we going to make sure the information is accurate? And how are we maintaining it? How are we going to report it to everyone? So I'm going to show that into the next steps. I did want to share some unexpected wins. We identified incorrect information on our websites because the chatbot was giving out the wrong answer. And I'm thinking, that's not the right answer. And then we realized we had older documents that needed to be updated. So that was a win. We had our staff now are using the bot to they'll ask the questions, and then that's the responses, and it's pretty accurate. So that's the responses to the emails. So I've also been using the emails to use those questions, train the bot, because I don't know what the questions are. And students ask questions differently from how I think. And I would think, okay, why did you ask it that way? There's 10 ways to ask something, but the bot is actually pretty, I'll show that later. It knows how to answer something. And it has a variability, so you can set it from 0 to 100%, depending on the data that you have. And there's also some sensitive questions that they don't want to ask a person, but they are willing to ask a bot. So that was unexpected once we audit through the questions. So I'm going to demo. So the first part is on our website, we've embedded chat with our virtual assistant. So we have the link directly to that, and it takes us to our MahiBot. So this is our MahiBot. It has basic information on the right side, and then once you click start, you can ask the questions. So I found that students do not answer this. They don't follow the questions, so they'll just strictly ask the questions. But I'm going to go as if I was demoing. And then I asked this too. I wanted to have it, because the way you build it in the back end, you want to make sure it follows a certain path. So then I have this so that I can identify, and it's easier to follow like the answers. So I'm going to say I'm an applicant. And I just want to know how much is the tuition? Because I know I'm interested in psychology and I want to know. And then, so it gives you this. Can I get... And it gives you a summary, and it's pretty accurate. And all of these are linked. It takes you to the curriculum, so which is exactly what we wanted. And then it takes you to admission requirements. And so this is what we wanted to answer, the program questions and the admissions questions. So it has all the steps. And so that's basically like how you use it. And then this is the build. It is the best thing about Playlab is that if you looked at this and you're thinking, I want to use the same exact thing, you can literally remix it. You can copy it, rebuild it, and then change it to your own prompts. And the questions that the background we created was that we explained what MahiBot was and what the purpose is. And then our audience is like the undergrads to graduate international students, our OLLI students, and where they live. And then our workflow is, if you can see from my sample, I had the questions here. That was part of our prompts. So you can build like what the initial questions, starter questions you want to do. We identified the type of students and the offers. And then the conversation rules is where you add it. I even added like, let's add some emojis because students love seeing those. And well, when I put just add emojis, they added emojis and everything, even when it was unnecessary. So then I started putting add emojis only when it's necessary. And for some reason, the bot understood that. And it is powered by ChatGPT. So if you can see at the top left, and here you can see I set it to 60% variability, because if I put 0, it would only use the information that's in my document. And because I'm linking to the website, I wanted it to have allow ChatGPT to search our website and then pull responses. And so you have to be really specific and then not. So there's a whole middle ground. So you'll have to test it. And then once, as you can see, I started with like 10 conversations rule, but then it's now 50 something. And the only reason why is because I have found that once I add the conversation rules, and these are all based on the responses. Some of the responses of the bot, so as I audit it, it's incorrect. It needs improvement. So I call it room for improvement versus incorrect, because technically it is pointing to the right page, just not the right answer that I want. And then, so this is the build. These are the references you can attach to your bot. So in case there's other things that you want that's not on the website, it's a PDF file. I am waiting. I think the developers were saying that they are working on connecting this like an integration with Google Drive, which I'm super excited for, because then I can just edit those documents and it's going to link it real time eventually. So, and this is free. This whole thing is free. It comes with a 6-week training if you want. And they also do have, there is a fee for it, but then you can ask for like help if your, campus doesn't pay for it. There's also an assistant. I have used the assistant, but I do prefer ChatGPT to help me with everything. So you could ask this, but then I want to show you the next part, which is...
Oh, Jerilee, sorry, can you just show again the references? Because I love that part when you're just scrolling so people can see like how much there is in there. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. So we have a lot of references, but because we link to our website, I've embedded it in the instructions here. It's a lot. Like it's every single, whenever something changes, I do have to make sure I edit it here too. And that's the manual part of it. But then if it's pretty steady, at least for academic year anyway, so someone just has to manually update, and which is me at this time. And so I found that if I embed it here, it was much easier than just having it reference the website because it was pulling too many. It was too the variable was too much. But I want to show you the questions that we're getting. So these are, so you can, in your app, you can check what the activity is. So it is anonymous, but some students will give their information. But like, here's one example, like they're asking us how long. So see, as you can see, they didn't give their name. They just say, how long is the business program? And then, so it gives you like, it's a 16 to 18 months. And then up to how many classes at a time can I take for the online business program? And it gives you, it typically takes this long, but then you're in a cohort. So you would take those classes and that's the path. And so that's actually right. But I want to show you one that's not. It's halfway right. It's halfway there. So you can even, so for the ones that have the incorrect question, like the answer, you can flag it as biased, inaccurate, or inappropriate. So you could flag it and then make the changes to your prompts. And in this case, this student was, or this applicant was looking at Open University and they wanted to know about the intent to enroll form. And if you click on the FAQ, and then you're in the registration, the intent to enroll form is here. But then if I look at the response of the chatbot, it's saying it's not required. And I'm thinking, no, that's wrong. So this is the kind of stuff that you kind of have to tweak and then make changes. And then, so then what I do is you can see on the left side of your, as the builder, you can ask the questions here. You can make the changes, ask the questions. And then what I did to address that issue was I created this prompt here. So the Open University intent to enroll form. And then after I asked that question, the same question that the way the student asked it, I put it in, and then now it gives me, it sends it to the right place, the right question. So it's super easy to tweak. And then because I'm a little extra, I wanted to add this into, we track everything in our Airtable. So that's our project management process. So I have, somehow I created a form so that I enter the chat, the history of the chat, who the type of students, the program when it's specified, not specified, and then it embeds it into my database where I enter all the questions. As you can see, I have the open ITE question in here, and then I put in all the different things that I did to it to fix it, and then for someone else to track, to review, and then I have a dashboard that has all the information that for all the interactions so far since we launched September 20th, we've had 211 interactions. And from those, I've made changes 31 times just because the question was a little not all there. There were 4 inaccurate responses, and that's just because I didn't train it. It wasn't on our website. Nothing was there, so it didn't give their information. But this is the activity we've had. For the most part, it's doing what we wanted. So it's asking, the students are asking about program details and admissions. And this is exactly what's being covered. And our most popular one is psychology and business, which is our bigger programs. And I think that's all I have. And then I have the link to the relay, the Playlab that you can take, like if you're interested in registering. So I'll put this in the summary if you're interested. And then they'll give you access to my bot and you can just recreate it if you're interested in using it as is. And then switch it to whatever. Like, I think, Jamie, you want to talk about like how we can put this for the classes?
Yeah, so we've thought about a couple of other ways to use Playlab that I think would be really effective and efficient. I'm not saying that another tool wouldn't necessarily be able to do that, but just kind of aligned to how we've been using it. If you had a project, an assignment that you could consistently use to key assignment, if you had, maybe for a program, you had a handbook specific to that program and different resources and documents, you could put those all in and have a chatbot that would answer those questions for students for the class or for the program. One of the other ways we're talking about using it, or I've started playing around and building it, but I'm not as quick as Jerilee, is having a coach, so a career coach. So students that have questions that maybe can't meet with an advisor in regular hours can get some support with basic things like building a resume, interviewing, steps and practices. And our Career Center has a website with lots of resources already there. So that's the space we started with those references and resources as a beginning point, right? Because obviously students can search the web as well, but if they want it directed at their program, or you want to put in unique information about who they should meet with as their program director or advisor, we could put that information in and align it specifically to our campus and our programs. So I think there's just a number of different ways you can use it. There's a ton of other tools out there as well. So I don't want to say that this is the one and only by any means, but we have been really exceptionally happy with how Playlab has worked for this process. There are a couple other questions I was trying to type, but I'm just not quite fast enough. Jerilee, you might be able to answer this one better. There was a question from Yulia about any insights how MahiBot responds if there's conflicting information. We've dealt with that a little bit for sure. But on the website versus the knowledge-based references that have been uploaded, do you feel like one's prioritized over the other? I don't know that that's easy to answer.
It does tend to prioritize your document. So a PDF file, it loves PDF files. So it does like that more. And I've noticed that for like the website, if I update, this is why I embed everything directly into the space in Playlab, because if I update the website, it takes like 24 hours sometimes. It's not immediate because it refresh, and I don't know what like how ChatGPT quickly, it's not real time, right? Like when it pulls the data. So it takes a little bit of time. So my workaround for that was just embedding it, like the tuition, especially because things change. So I put it in there and I'll add the tuition. And also prior to adding the tuition in there, it was adding it. Technically the bot isn't wrong. It was adding all the different fees that came with the tuition, but I wanted it to be specific for the per unit rate. So then I started having to input that information into the bot, like into the space for it. But it learns and it knows and it picks it up quickly and it's immediate. As soon as I fix it and I ask that question multiple times, I have other people test it, it gets it. So, and I'm willing to share if anyone's interested in seeing the back end or you're wanting to build something similar.
There was a question about what student data do we collect? We don't collect anything. It's anonymous. We don't require them to put any information in. It's whatever the student, it's just like any anonymous chat. There's no mandated information at this point. Once in a while, pretty often students will put their name, maybe just a first name, or they might say their program. But then we follow up on the back end as Jerilee demoed to audit and just make sure the answers are correct.
For some of them, we forward, like a lot of it, our directors or advisors have like their own links to book appointments, follow-up appointments. We've embedded that. So if the student is interested in a specific person or program, contact someone, they can make that appointment directly. And we do have a trail too. So we don't give the wrong info.
And Casandra, the issue reading tables, yes, that's how we got, we had issues with the tuition explicitly because it was in a table on the website. And so we had to make it a rule in the back end. It wasn't reading the table well.
And we have live questions. Yes, Heather Brown, please go ahead.
Hi, this is great. And I've had an opportunity to play with Playlab, and I think it's great for building bots. But my question to you is, how many times did you have other people play with it before you actually made it go live? And I know it's kind of one of the, a question will come up periodically, or like, oh, it didn't answer that correctly. You have to go back in and update it. But, how long did it between you went live with it?
Actually started in August, our build, and then we didn't go live until the end of September. Okay. So between August, we had like soft launches to see how it was. But yeah, it took a while just to gather And it just kept
Yeah. So
getting
did
bigger.
you give it to a certain group of students to play with it before you actually kind of unleashed it to the
Yeah, so our first formal soft launch was with our internal team, and we call it lunch and learn. We did this just optional time, and we asked everybody to come and join and we actually did a competition to see how many people could get the wrong answer.
Oh, that's great.
And then there was, of course, the like one-off users where we had shared it over time during that period of time internally. And then the beginning of October, we had a graduate program mixer event with faculty and students and alumni. And we shared it there as like, that was our official, I guess, live launch, but we didn't put it on the website yet. We launched it there to also, again, test further. And then once we got it on the website, the ongoing kind of auditing that Jerilee has been doing has been amazing.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Danielle?
I was just going to say it's so cool. And I was wondering how you were able to get it to regularly kind of like cite the location of where it got the answer. So like I saw in a couple of the examples, you have it like you give it the answer and then it says like, go here to this website for more information. That's something when I've made Playlab bots that it's always like, sometimes it gives the wrong location or sometimes it doesn't actually give a real website, even when it gives the right information. So what did you do to get it to do that?
It is, I have found that it does do that. Like it's because it pulls it from like the first part and it just adds like a pretend link. So I'm really specific. Like if you see my instructions, I have on there exactly where to go for almost every single page. I found that when I kept it vague, saying just go here, yeah, that wasn't working. So I had to be really specific. For questions about this, go here. And after a while, it kind of starts to pick it up, like it learns eventually that that's where you want it to do. But that's why I'm constantly auditing it, because I'll find things. I was like, oh no, that's wrong. But then I changed the prompt a little bit and then it understands it and it fixes it.
Gotcha. Thanks. Yeah, that's what I mentioned in the chat. Like I had tried using a table to have it do that. So like if it's a question about this, then in the next column is like the website of where I want you to like get
It doesn't like
the website answer from, but I don't know if that's better or not.
Well, how about as we wrap up, any advice? I'm gonna ask from Iain and Jerilee and Jaime for like one piece of advice you could give to others building bots, GPTs, as they get started or keep trying to do some of what you're doing or their own thing. Iain, do you have some final advice for us?
I think, as far as building the bots is concerned, like I said before, it is actually pretty straightforward. I mean, you use regular language to instruct it. So what Jerilee and Jaime presented is amazing, but a little more complicated because of what they're specifically doing with it. But for the kind of interactive bots that I've been creating for students, they can be more or less complicated as considering what you're trying to do with them. But I think my piece of advice to anybody who's interested in experimenting with making bots is to just start tinkering with it and spending time with it. And because I've said to people in the past that this is not really computing. Artificial intelligence is a different type of experience, and you have to kind of get into a weird rhythm with artificial intelligence and kind of almost intuitively feel your way through it and learn its quirks. It's almost like, this is a frightening thing to say, it's almost like getting to know a person, and so that, I think the more time you spend with it tinkering, the more comfortable you get, but also the more workarounds and inroads you find to creating things. So yeah, and then there was some also, I'll just finish by saying there was also some comments in the chat about controlling how much it says and how much it responds to, and that was an issue I noticed early on. I'm extremely explicit with AI. I want you to give me responses that are no more than 150 words per response. And I give it very explicit word counts, and that seems to stop it from giving me endless bulleted lists and unsolicited advice on top of answering the basic question I asked it. So,
Thank you, Iain. And Jerilee and Jaime, final advice.
I would say just try it small or big with a small project or on your own. I know there's a lot of different messaging happening about AI and lots of scares and worries about using it. I'm not saying those aren't significant, but I know from the perspective of K through 12 with my own kids, where they're getting confused messaging around should they use it or not? Is it allowed or is it not in different spaces all the way through higher education? You know, just thinking about how we can use it effectively and efficiently and safely. But just try it. I mean, try it with something and then see, jump in and play around with, you know, pick one tool, because it can be really overwhelming to stay or feel like I don't always feel like I can stay up to date with everything that's changing so rapidly.
My advice is have your colleagues. In my case, there's 3 other people that also got trained how to use Playlab. So it's not just me and James. There's 5 of us in our area who, even though they're not maintaining my bot, but they could look at it and figure out like what to tweak if they need it, because they were also trained to use it. So that's my advice. Don't be alone. Like, collaborate with people in your area.
That's great. And this is what this space is about too, sharing things together. And I think Margaret put it best in the chat. This was such a cool combination of presenters, because we saw what a team can do and working together within the institution. And Iain, he's by himself, right? As an individual working all these things. But I hope you'll keep joining us, and this is that's what this community is about. So happy to start the year with our wonderful presenters and with all of you. I will post the recording in the meeting notes, and upcoming events are there. The next showcase is February 11th. In the world of custom bots GPTs, there is also I'm happy to be presenting with Yulia Yoncheva, who is right here with us for NYU Learning to Teach. That's up and coming January 17th. If any of you have other things coming up related to this world of custom bots GPTs apps, please share with us in the document. And thank you again very much, and have a wonderful January and year.